Welcome to the Tell Me Something Good podcast, ranked by the International Association of Awesome Podcasts as the best podcast in the history of podcasts. Wait, is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. Anyway, seeking to shine a light on all that is good in an ever-darkening world of negativity. Here's your host, Clint Swindall.
Hey everybody, I'm Clint Swindall, and this is the Tell Me Something Good podcast, the show that is all about creating a more positive world by overcoming negativity. It is my goal each episode to engage your mind, encourage your heart, or enlighten your soul. I am happy you're here. This is episode number 8 of the Tell Me Something Good podcast, and it is entitled Dealing with the Haters of Change, brought to you by Let's Talk Smack, an app that provides daily nudges to take your social media game to a whole new level. Now, if you're wanting to have a more engaging presence on social media, maybe just trying to find some new stuff to put on your social media post, either personally or professionally, you need a plan, and the Let's Talk Smack app can do that for you. Check it out wherever you get your apps. Here we are, friends, episode number 8. I thought about changing the intro for the podcast today, and then I remembered how much people don't like change. With all the change the coronavirus pandemic is causing for many people around the world, I thought it might be a good time to talk about it, because change is an odd thing. While we know it's going to happen, it seems to come in waves. At times we can wander through life and everything seems to stay the same, or at least in ways we don't find disturbing in our constant effort to keep things the same. And at other times, everything in our lives seems to change at once. As I think about change, I'm reminded of all the worn-out quotes connected to the topic. We can't change the situation, we can only change ourselves. Or, there is nothing permanent except change. Or, change is inevitable, growth is optional. Although we've heard those a million times, and while they've become cliches, they each speak truth about the topic of change. I am amazed at the constant struggle most people endure when dealing with change. The one thing we know for certain is that things are going to change, and we have a range of quotes reminding us that the power of dealing with change lies within us. However, people everywhere around you at this very moment are struggling through some change in their life. Based on that, I'm not certain we can be reminded too often how to deal with change. We must deal with it in our personal lives, and we have to help employees deal with it in our organizations, particularly now. The pandemic will create long-term changes in nearly every organization. Some changes will be small, and some changes will be big. Regardless, employees will need help navigating the change. Great leaders don't just force change on people around them. Great leaders prepare people in the organization for change. I addressed the topic in my first book, Disengaged Leadership, Building a Culture to Overcome Employee Disengagement. I want to share some thoughts from that book on how great leaders prepare an organization for change. Because change is a-coming, if it's not already upon you. A new or adjusted vision for your organization as a result of the pandemic will bring change, and most employees will not readily accept it. In fact, many can be considered haters of change. That's not surprising. In fact, it's simply not normal to eagerly accept change. If we do, it's probably because we were a part of the initial discussion and can see the benefit of the change, or it was our idea in the first place. Either way, we've seen the future with the change in place, and we're willing to move in that direction. For the majority in your organization, however, the benefit of the change may not be so obvious. Each employee has his own way of dealing with change. In fact, there are 3 different ways a disengaged employee will react to change. 1, there are those who will ignore it and just keep doing what they were doing before. 2, there are those who will fight it because they don't buy into the reasons for the change, or it is their sole mission in life to keep everything the same. And 3, there are those who will react to it, either positively or negatively. For most disengaged employees, the reaction is usually negative. Too often as leaders, we just introduce change and assume our employees will accept whatever change we tell them to accept. After all, we're paying them to do a job. As leaders, we have a responsibility to prepare the organization for change. And yes, it is a-coming. To get you started, here are some recommended items to help you prepare the organization for change. 1, agree on unity with your leadership team. Many employees will react to a change based on the way their manager reacts to the change. I once worked for a boss who introduced a change in departmental policy with the following announcement. As you know, the department has been considering this change. Although I don't agree with it, the decision has been made. Quite frankly, I think it's stupid, and I don't want to do it, but it seems we don't have a choice. How many of us on that team do you think supported the change? Not many. As a leader, you have a responsibility to stand up and fight for whatever you know to be right when you're with your leadership team. But when the decision is made, regardless of what position you took prior to the change, you have a responsibility to stand behind it 100%, provided the change is not illegal or immoral. If you don't, then you've shown your employees that the leadership team can't even agree to the change. The first step toward preparing your team for change is to have a leadership team on the same page. 2, give the reason for the change. A person doesn't have to agree with a change to accept it. Remember, you don't have to get everyone to agree with the change. You just have to get them to agree to the change. And most reasonable employees will accept it if it makes sense, even if they don't particularly like it. And 3, tell them how it will affect them. Somewhere in the back of an employee's mind, they may be wondering how a change will affect the organization. But the only thing they really want to know is how it's going to affect them. Tell them up front, and they have a better chance of accepting the change. 4, use the data to tell the story. The world is full of left-brain detailed people. When they hear someone in leadership say, "I think building a new store in this area is important to the company," it means very little to them. But if they hear, "I think building a new store in this area is important to the company because the most recent survey of this area indicates a 74% growth in population in the next 5 years. And by purchasing the land and building a new store now, we project an increase of 250 employees to our workforce and profits of more than $10 million in the 5th year." Numbers can be powerful. In fact, numbers drive many of the changes our companies make. If they help build consensus of the vision, use them to tell your story. 5, introduce the change as improvement, not change. Nearly all change is implemented because someone believes it will lead to something better. I've heard many people say, "Oh no, not more change," but I've never heard anyone say, "Oh no, not more improvement." It may be a simple concept, but it helps employees deal with change. And finally, number 6, celebrate the past and the future. The change you are introducing may be the best idea in the world, but when someone feels the new way is a rejection of their old way, most people will object to the change. Celebrate the successes of the past. If you let them know you move forward on the shoulders of the people who succeeded in the past, you have a better chance of getting them to accept the change. The pandemic is going to require most businesses to do things differently. Those that refuse to adjust to a new normal just may get left behind. To move forward, change is going to be required. Finding a way to help employees through the change is a key to building consensus toward the vision. And by all means, be proactive in creating the change and talk about what good will come from it. Your positive attitude toward organizational change will go a long way in determining how well those around you accept the change. And there you have it. 6 things you can do to determine whether employees see your future changes as good or bad.
You're listening to Tell Me Something Good with Clint Swindall.
All right, let's find some good stuff. Some people would argue there isn't much good stuff happening right now. Look around. Politics has us more divided than ever in the U.S., and it's only going to get worse as the national election in November gets closer. The riots and hatred of others are destroying who we are as a nation, and the pandemic not only continues to keep people from working, it's creating even more division as people disagree on whether we should open up or continue to shelter in place. These are all very real issues. Just as with everything in our lives, we have a choice in how we deal with them. We can watch the news and allow all the negativity to get us down and affect our personal and professional lives, or we can try to be a light in an ever-darkening world. People need others to help them past the negativity, and the only way you can be part of that effort to get others past the negativity is to choose to see the good. Yes, while the national election and the political discussions will create incredible divisiveness in the U.S., we can use it as an opportunity to learn more about the other side, to sharpen our positions, and perhaps understand why we think the way we think. And yes, while the riots and hatred of others are hard to watch, we can use it as an opportunity to see the positive responses. Communities coming together to clean streets and businesses destroyed by those who chose to destroy them in the riots. Young people coming together to clean or paint over tagged buildings. These are things the nightly news won't tell you because it doesn't sell. Look, we are surrounded by bad stuff and a media that knows all about our negativity bias. They will feed us the bad stuff every day knowing we will consume it. And there is so much of it right now that it will have a negative effect on our thinking if we choose to consume it instead of looking for the good stuff. Here's something good I read as a reminder just yesterday regarding the riots and the impact stereotypes have on our thinking. It was a meme that read, "Not all black people are criminals, not all white people are racists, and not all cops are bad." One of the biggest challenges we have right now is people who insist on applying labels to entire groups of people. This meme was a great reminder for me that stereotyping people just makes the problem worse. That simple reminder was something good for me, and I happen to like being reminded of the good stuff. As we know, we won't get much of the good stuff from the news. Here on the Tell Me Something Good podcast, we'll always take the time to hear some good news in these uncertain times. So let's uncover some good stuff in a segment I like to call
Good News from Around the World.
And here's what I found. Apparently, you're never too young to plan and then throw a prom. A 7-year-old in North Carolina showed his nanny how much she really meant to him by throwing her a private prom. He was reportedly inspired to hold the socially distant dance after the COVID-19 pandemic upended the young woman's original prom plans. Curtis Rogers went 2 months without seeing his nanny, Rachel Chapman, due to the coronavirus. Rogers described Chapman as one of the best people I've known, and it definitely shows. After Chapman's prom was canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic, she was understandably upset. But Rogers' invite lifted her spirits, even though she was momentarily saddened after finally putting on the dress she was supposed to wear to the actual event. I was kind of like bummed putting my dress on because I was sad. I don't get to wear it to my senior prom. After leaving it and having that time with him because it was the first time I had seen him in 2 months, it was like really fun, and I'm really glad that he did that. Rogers was a complete gentleman from the start, Chapman added. First, he was waiting outside when we got there with the pool noodle, and then he led me into the backyard, Chapman explained. He had all my favorite foods and everything. I could tell he put a lot of thought into it. Becky Chapman, Rachel's mom, shared pictures from the evening on Twitter, and that post received over 12,000 likes. The boy's mom, Alyssa, said he was very excited and wanted to make sure everything was just right and get his suit on and pick out his bow tie that matched her dress. It was really cute. He was really excited for it to start and make sure he was ready to impress her. And then there's this. 2 Good Samaritans recovered $1,300 blowing down a South Carolina highway and helped return the cash to the elderly person who had lost it. Linwood Woody Smith and Jonathan Omar Saldivar found the money blowing along Highway 17 in Georgetown County. As a result of their quick and honest actions, the money was returned to the elderly owner who was actively searching for it. To thank the duo, the sheriff's office proclaimed them honest men and posted a picture of them smiling alongside a patrol vehicle. Community members praised the two men, including a few people who apparently already knew them. "Wouldn't expect anything different from Woody," wrote one user. "It's unclear how the victim dropped the money, but they may have been shopping at a farmer's market nearby." The act of kindness comes as many people around the country are struggling with unemployment, layoffs, and shuttered businesses due to the coronavirus. And that, my friends, is some good news from around the world. While we like to hear good stuff, we often hear the opposite from people around us. They love to share all the crud in their lives, and nowhere does that show up more than in social media. So, it's time to log into social media to see
what are they bitching about now.
I saw someone on my Facebook feed complaining about how long he had to sit in the drive-thru getting lunch the other day before he went back to work. Really? Let's unpack this situation. You are on a lunch break from your job, which means you have income when half the country is out of work. You are sitting in a car, so you have transportation when many people have to ride a bus. You're likely sitting in an air-conditioned car in the 90-degree weather, listening to your favorite station on the radio. After moving forward in your car, someone is going to hand you a bag of food for your dining pleasure in a world where 840 million people go hungry every day. And your complaint is about how long you had to sit in the drive-thru? Wow. Just wow. It's crazy what people complain about. If you've seen someone complain about something on your social media accounts that made you shake your head, share it with me. Jump over to findthegoodinlife.com and click on the bar for questions or sharing something good. It's right there on the front page. Share the crazy things you've been seeing people about lately, and I'll share some on the podcast. All right, everybody, we're about to wrap up. Before I end this episode with a challenge, I want to remind you that this episode of Tell Me Something Good has been brought to you by Let's Talk Smack, an app that provides daily nudges to take your social media game to a whole new level. If you're wanting to have a more engaging presence on social media, either personally or professionally, you need the Let's Talk Smack app to help you form a plan. Check it out wherever you get your apps. And now the challenge. Before you come back for the next episode, I challenge you to think about the conversations you've had with others about all the bad stuff going on in the world right now. We can't help but to talk about it. It's on the top of everyone's mind. I want you to think about the words you use. Are they encouraging words, or are they divisive? Are you applying labels to entire groups of people? If you are joining the chorus of negativity, two things are happening. One, you're training your brain to focus on those negative thoughts. And two, you're encouraging others to stay focused on the bad stuff. There is so much bad stuff happening around us right now, and the world is looking for someone to shine a light on the goodness. Before you come back for the next episode, make a commitment to be the light in our ever-darkening world. Well, that's all for today's episode of the Tell Me Something Good podcast. Join us again for our next episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. If you can, leave me a rating and review. We could enhance someone's life if they hear some good news at just the right time on this podcast, and your support could help guide someone to listen. To encourage you to leave a review, we're giving something away. If you leave a review, you'll be entered into a drawing for a Tell Me Something Good gift package. The package includes all kinds of awesome stuff, including an array of Tell Me Something Good logoed items, like a t-shirt, eyeglass cleaner, and Tell Me Something Good sticker. We'll also include a signed copy of my first book, Disengaged Leadership. All you need to do is leave a review, and you are entered. Also, visit findthegoodinlife.com. While you're there, you can find everything related to Tell Me Something Good. All the links to join us on social media and a place to share your good stuff or ask questions for the podcast. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'll be praying for God to bless you in mighty ways. Now, get out there and love on somebody.
You've been listening to the Tell Me Something Good podcast. The content of the podcast is meant to engage, encourage, and enlighten you to become more positive. It's not meant to diagnose, treat, or replace the personalized care provided by a trained professional. If you're struggling with depression or mental health issues, please reach out to a counselor for diagnosis and treatment. Until next time, be positive, people.